A blessed Sabbath to you all. I want to greet you all as we come on this Sabbath to unite in the presentation of present truth. As we are going to pry into the scriptures, into the Spirit of Prophecy volumes and the Bible. We all want to understand the message for this time so that we are all sealed, we are all ready to be translated, we are all ready to enter the pearly gates or enter the kingdom. So we cannot just enter without prying into all these truths, which appear like we are just reading, but they are serving us for translation. So when we study all these are going to translate us into what God says we are prepared now to enter into the kingdom. So I greet you all in the comfort of your homes so that we can understand this truth. So before we read, we will find that today our topic is on Revelation chapter 18 in conjunction with Judgment for the Living. And that one, we want to pay full attention because this will rightly divide the word of truth so we can understand what God has laid down for us to understand and be better able to comprehend what he wants us to know this time so that we can inherit the kingdom. We know since 1844, as we were studying yesterday, we saw that the message by Sister White was the message on the 9th hour, the call of Revelation of Matthew chapter 20. That was the call which came at the 9th hour. But we are worried more about the 11th hour, which we elaborated more yesterday when we were studying. We saw what will happen, what will prepare us for the 11th hour. But Revelation 18 comes now in conjunction with the 11th hour call. So this is the last message of mercy which comes, which makes us ready to inherit the kingdom. That's why Christ said, you pay the last workers first. We saw that yesterday when we were studying. These are the 5 stones which are in the bag of David, which he collected 5 stones and put in the bag. And these 5 stones, we saw that from the time of Moses, Moses was the call which came early in the morning, and then also the next call was Christ, which is the early Christian church. The disciples were in the 3rd hour call, which is the 2nd hour with the 2nd call, according to Matthew chapter 20. Then we saw 2 calls, which were one in the 6th hour and the other in the 9th hour. 6th hour was William Miller, the first Adventist, who were under William Miller. And then we see that the 9th hour was under Sister White, the Sabbath. But there's still one more call. That's why those who say Sister White was the last prophet, they go wrong there, because the next call, which is the 11th hour call, has a prophet also. So you see all these calls, 5 of them, they all are without a prophet. Call, which is the 11th hour call, should also come with a prophet. As we actually read and analyze how these calls came about, it won't come without a prophet. It will come with a prophet. The 11th hour call has a prophet. And all these stones, which are 5 or 5 messages from the bag of David, all of them had one theme. They all were under the appointed times of the statutes from God, which were given to Moses. So God gave the statutes, the commandments, the judgments, the testimonies. We saw it on Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 13. We saw what Moses was given. And all these calls, they had all these follows. Even the 11th hour call. That's why it is in Malachi chapter 4 verse 4 to 5, clearly telling us what is going to be given as a message to Elijah in the last time. Someone is to be raised. Sister White says it in Testimonies to Ministers, page 475. Someone will be raised. Someone, a living someone, not a dead someone. To those who think all the dead prophets are their prophets right now, this one is where you lose out, because it should be a live prophet. That's why the dragon in Revelation chapter 12 verse 17 was wroth with the woman who was leading this seed, which is the remnant, which has the commandments and have the faith of Jesus. What was the faith of Jesus? It's the living prophet. This is we find also in 242 CET. It's clearly laid that it's a prophet. So we won't argue on that point because the spirit of prophecy has it all. It has cleared all that mess, unless you don't want it to go that way. You want it to go your own way, but your ways are not God's ways. God's ways are in the scriptures, in the Bible. That's where we find God's way. So now, as we study the 11th hour call, we want to see it. As we start from the call, which started in 1844, which we know is the 9th hour call, which was Sister White, before we address the 11th hour call. We want to study now what is this. The 9th hour call brought what is called judgment for the dead. Do you hear? Because when Sister White, you can see in Great Controversy, page 483 or 490, to tell you that when Christ went into the Holy of Holies, he started with the investigative judgment for the dead. Later on to proceed to the investigative judgment for the living. Pardon me there. But all these two sections, the judgment of the dead and judgment of the living, all were led by prophets. Did you hear? So we find in the 9th hour call, the investigative judgment for the dead was led by Sister White. And also in the 11th hour call, which was the next call upon the 5 messages, the 11th hour call will also be led by a prophet in judgment of the living. So the judgment of the living falls under the 11th hour call. If you see that one correctly, then we agree that the judgment for the living is under a messenger, which is Elijah. Do you understand? So that's where we are coming from. So when 11th hour call is what is also sometimes termed as the harvest or the judgment of the living. The judgment of the living and the harvest, they are all. But this is a repetition also of the message of Revelation 14 verse 8. Did you see that? We are going to study all that. Revelation 14 verse 8, it was the second angel's message preached by William Miller when the churches rejected his message of the coming of the advent of Christ. So that message, it was Revelation chapter 14 verse 8. Let's read that Revelation chapter 14 from the Bible. Revelation 14 from the Bible. In verse 8. We want to see, William Miller preached that message in Revelation 14 verse 8. What did he preach?
Verse 8. And there followed another angel, saying,
Right.
Babylon is fallen.
Babylon is fallen. Right.
That
So
great city.
he proclaimed the fall of those churches who ignored his message that Christ was coming in 1844. God allowed him to proclaim that message to those churches which he had already reformed against the Babylonian system, which was in the dark ages, which was changing the times and laws. So if you don't have God's times and laws, definitely you cannot hide also being called Babylon, right? So, but William Miller proclaimed to them, since they refused the coming of Christ, which was in 1844, which they were proclaiming from Revelation chapter 14, verse 6 to 7, which is fear God and give glory to his coming. He was supposed to come to them. He was supposed to come in 1844. Yes, the coming was there, but he went into the third heaven, into the first heaven, into the Holy of Holies. So there was a coming. But since these churches rejected William Miller, he was raised to proclaim the second angel's message, which is Babylon is fallen. But we will find out as we study that second angel's message is Sister White had to come and say this message of Revelation 14 verse 8, which was announcing the fall of Babylon, which is those churches that were rejecting William Miller. is going to be repeated again. And when it is repeated, then there it comes as Revelation 18. Right? So when we now know Revelation 18 comes, let's see, for instance, when this Revelation 18 comes, go to Great Controversy, page 390. You'll find that when then, because Revelation 18 also announces the fall of Babylon, that there is now another church which has fallen, and it is Babylon again, like it is in Revelation 14, verse 8. So let's see in Great Controversy of Babylon here.
Revelation 18 points to the time when, as the result of rejecting the threefold warning of Revelation 14, verse 6 to 12, the church will have fully reached the condition foretold by the second angel.
So you can see it's clear now. Revelation 18 is not the same as what it was in Revelation 14, verse 8. Sister White clearly tells us that in 14, verse 8, William Miller was not proclaiming to the then churches now. He was proclaiming to those churches in 1833 which rejected him. Right? But now, the reputation of Revelation 18 is after the three messages, which is the first angel's message, second angel's message, third angel's message. These threefold messages, after, from 1844, three angels' messages, when errors come in the church from 1844, then God raises a prophet to proclaim Revelation 18 to say, now, those who have been there in the church from 1844, since there is a message of the times and laws. We saw the message of the times and laws and times and seasons by A.T. Jones and Wekona. They were rejected, but they continued to be rejected until our time. So Revelation 18 finally confirms that the church now has fallen because they have also rejected all these feasts. So it is announcing their fall as well. So when we repeat there, this is the time when we are talking about the judgment of the living. In another way, you are talking about the 11th hour call. Because it is proclaimed when we finally fall, when the church finally falls, finally makes sure they don't keep all these appointed times as they were brought. Since the three angels' messages, there was a warning not to worship the beast. It was all these times. So all these times, A.T. Jones and Wagona were trying to inject them. And God has been trying to inject them back to the church as they were supposed to go along with the moral law and the ceremonial law. Not the killing of the lambs, but of the appointed times in the ceremonial law. They were supposed to be together with the moral law. But until this time, if they are not incorporated into our syllabuses, then it means Revelation 18 now is due. It is the right time to proclaim Revelation 18. So that is the mighty angel coming with the 11th hour call. Have I explained clearly there? That should be clear on your mind. Revelation 18 is not proclaiming to those people who you are pointing at to say, those who are not keeping Sabbath, they are the Babylon. The Babylon now becomes us when we reject God's feasts. We become Babylon like it was when the Israelites in the land of Canaan, when they did not walk in the statutes, when they did not keep these feasts, these Sabbaths, they were sent to Babylon. This is exactly what it was. Yeah. So once you are not keeping these festivals, God says you are a Babylonian. Finish. Let's see a repetition of that in Great Controversy, page 606. Right? So she further confirms that at a later stage, when then we finally reject, like it is now, at the introduction of the 11th hour call, then we also become Babylon if we reject what God has sent. Right? Let's go to the Great Controversy, page 6. That's the message.
606. Thus the message of the third angel
Right.
will be proclaimed.
The message of the third angel will be proclaimed. Now we are at the stage of the third angel. We are not at the first where William Miller was. We are at the third where Sister White left us. Now it will be proclaimed. Not this year.
As the time comes for it to be given with greatest power,
Right?
the Lord will work through humble instruments,
Right.
leading
so
the
when
minds.
this message, at the third angel's message, is proclaimed, Sister White saw now, instead, there were humble instruments selected by God. This is what marks the judgment for the living. Humble instruments now start coming to. So Sister White is telling that all the ministry that was there from the three angels, they were going to be swept over with humble instruments. Listen to that. Let's hear.
The Lord will work through humble instruments,
Right.
leading the minds of those who consecrate themselves to his service.
Right.
The laborers will be qualified rather by the unction of his spirit
So
than
she
by the
clearly
training.
says on this Revelation 18, on the time when it is being announced in the judgment of the living, God works through humble instruments who are not trained in institutes. These humble instruments are trained by the unction of the Spirit of God. That's the Spirit of prophecy now. Well, if it is the unction of the Spirit of prophecy, then they have a prophet. They are trained by the prophet, whereas it was when Sister White started the ministry. She is the one who ordained the first minister. She had a ministry. So we are, in the judgment of the living, we'll have a prophet with also ministers who are not trained in institutes. These ministers are disclosed to view at the time of the 11th hour call. Do you understand? These are the ones that start to proclaim that the church is now Babylon. Do you understand? Let's hear more. Let's hear.
Men of faith
Men of faith.
and prayer will be constrained to go forth with holy zeal.
These ministers who come into view, that's a revival and reformation, by the way, she was calling for. So she's being shown that it's thus at the time of the third angel's message, when it proclaims, the next messages, which is the judgment for the living. God will have a fresh ministry with a fresh prophet. Like it was when he started in 1844, it was a fresh ministry. After the first day Adventists, which were under William Miller, God came up with Sister White, a fresh prophet, who came with a fresh ministry. Right? So don't ask me what happened to the ministry which had rejected her message, which were with the William Miller. Don't ask me what happened to them. But now, don't also ask me what happened to those ministers who have been there from the threefold messages. When now we go into the judgment for the living, there is a fresh prophet and a fresh minister, a minister which is fresh, but not trained from institutes. But the workers there, the instruments, are qualified by the unction of the Spirit. So they've got the prophet leading with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, if it is unction of Spirit, it's the Spirit of prophecy, is it? And there cannot be Spirit of prophecy without a prophet. Right. Now let's hear.
Men of faith and prayer
Right.
will be constrained to go forth with holy zeal,
Right.
declaring the words which God gives them.
Right.
The sins of
So
Babylon.
these words that they declare, they're not coming from anyway, but from God. God now further illuminates the Bible and the Spirit of prophecy for this new ministry to go everywhere declaring the message. This happens now in the judgment of the living. Right? Let's hear.
The sins of Babylon
Right.
will be
So
laid
the very
open.
first thing people say, why are we not practicing it as a house of God? Why? Why? Because they will unmask the sins of Babylon. When they are raised, the very first thing they will proclaim to show that the Babylonian is now further come into our midst. The sins of Babylon will be exposed. And people say, these are the very sins that we have in the house of God. And then these are the ones who are going to unmask that Babylon now is within us. Now let's hear.
The fearful results of enforcing the observances of the church by civil authority, the inroads of spiritualism,
Right?
the stealthy but rapid progress of the papal power, all will be unmasked.
Everything will be unmasked.
By these solemn warnings,
Right?
the people will be steered.
But people also will be steered by these solemn warnings in the judgment of the living, right?
Thousands
Thousands
upon thousands
upon thousands
will listen.
How are these thousands which are going to listen? How are they listening? Go to BSM TV, you'll find there's thousands and thousands followers hidden there who have not worshipped Baal. They are listening. Thousands. What is predicted through the spirit of prophecy? Thousands upon thousands will listen. Right? Let's hear.
Who have never heard
They've never heard
words like these.
Words like this.
In amazement,
In amazement,
they
also,
hear the testimony
They also hear the testimony
that Babylon is the
that
church.
now Babylon has gone to furthermore to become the church is now Babylon. They will listen, but they will hear in amazement. Why is it amazement? They never thought it. They never thought. Why do you think those churches which rejected William Miller, when William Miller proclaimed that they are now Babylon, had they heard that they were Babylon? They didn't. But they were now told by William Miller they are Babylon. But now, in the third angel's message, in amazement, in the judgment of the living, in the time of the 11th hour call, they will hear the same condemnation when they have refused all these threefold messages. First, second, third angel's message. They have been refusing to keep God's appointed times. Instead, they will be called Babylon. Right? Now let's hear more.
In amazement, they hear the testimony that Babylon is the church.
Right.
Fallen because of her errors and sins.
Right.
Because of her rejection of the truth sent to her from heaven.
There were truths sent by A.T. Jones and Wekwana. They were rejected and is chronicled in black and white. And they continued to reject until today. They are rejecting all these times that God did. They just want to uphold the Ten Commandments. That's it. What about God's times? Yeah. What's times? Because the statutes are not commandments. Yeah. You go even in a country, they've got their laws, and they also have statutes. Statutes are these holidays. Yeah. Bank holidays, Independence Days. These are statutes. So there can't be a country without statutes. Now, even God has got his own statutes that are not commandments. He has the laws which are commandments, and he also have the statutes. He has them. The Passover is a statute. Yeah, the new moon is a statute. The Feast of Tabernacle, the camp meeting, is a statute. All these statutes, when they are rejected by those who want to go and inherit heaven, how can they be afforded the time or the chance or the privilege to go and inherit heaven when they reject the statutes which are in heaven? How can they go and live there? Right? So God is saying, in amazement, when the 11th hour caller, in the 11th hour mission, these are not trained by institutes. No, because sometimes they don't even have the qualifications that are worldly qualifications. I can see institutes charging people saying, come, or as long as you have O level or A level. There's nothing like that with God. The instruments are picked, whether they qualify A level or O level, they are picked because of the unction of the Spirit which is in their heart. This is what God does not even have this academic that you break with this academic. I passed earlier, I passed history, I passed geography, you think you need geography for you to preach you need the history for you to preach the word of God? No, it doesn't have that. That's why the workers are qualified by the unction of the Spirit, but not geography or maths or science or whatever. No, these are in worldly institutes. They demand them. That's fine. That's their own demand. But God does not demand them, does not want them. That's why the laborers now at this time are qualified by the unction of the Spirit. You know what? That's the God I worship. The God I worship did not demand that qualification from David. David, the cap tilted on the head without even any academic, no history, no to Job, to Abraham, to Adam. All these were called by the name of God as good workers in the Bible. They didn't have all that. So that's why you see, when now God emerges with a new ministry, with a fresh prophet, and a new ministry, whether there are people you were looking down on, thinking they are not educated, but as long as the unction of the Spirit appoints them, you have no door. You understand? So let's hear more. It's interesting. It's the judgment of the living. Under Revelation chapter 18. Have you finished there? Let's enjoy that one. Great controversy, page 606. Yeah?
As the people go to their former teachers with the eager inquiry.
Now, when they hear what the people who are preaching in the judgment of the living are saying, which is biblical, and in the spirit of prophecy, they go back to their teachers to say, you were teaching us that the churches will never be Babylon. We were teaching us. They go, especially this one, it stirs them. They go to their teachers to say, hey, listen to what they do.
As the people go to their former teachers with the eager inquiry, are these things so?
Are these things so?
The ministers present fables.
You see what? They have got the spirit of prophecy itself discloses that they don't have a thus said the Lord. They have fables. They say, no, we are the church of God. We are these are fables. We need a thus said the Lord. Don't tell us history. In that year we preached, so and so came that year. That one killed himself there. That one does and that. These are the fables. They tell you histories of whatever you are hearing, which is not coming from the Bible. These are the ones that they use to lure people so that they don't join in the ministry of the 11th hour call. Do you understand? They go to the minister. Is that so? Yeah, we're hearing that now in amazement. They hear that the church is Babylon. This is in the spirit of prophecy. And then they come with fables. Be careful. Be careful. This is what be careful. That one so and so did that here. Then these are the fables. They try to lure the people by telling unnecessary histories that they don't carry weight. To those who are looking for an answer, those don't carry weight. They don't carry weight. You have to present a thus saith the Lord to the law and to the testimony. Do you understand? For that person who wants the truth will be satisfied with a verse and a quotation from Sister White, then blend them there, then you say this is the answer, and the people won't question you anymore. But because people go and ask and hear instead the answer is fables. These are fables. Go and ask them, why are we taking the supper in the afternoon? 4 times a year. They've got no answer. They have no answer. They'll pick on fables. Oh, Sister White once kept Lord's supper in the morning, once this and that. What you forget is that the statutes were brought by A.T. Jones and Wekona. And we rejected unanimously. So they were not yet taught. Do you understand? They were not yet taught. These guys were rejected before all the statutes were taught. So they never even had a glimpse of what A.T. Jones and Wagona brought. Not even a single glimpse, because they just outrightly rejected these guys. So they were supposed to teach when to keep the camp meeting. They were supposed to teach when to take the Lord's Supper if they opened up the door for them. They were supposed to teach all those things, but instead they rejected, they called them wrong before they even listened to what they were saying. They did the same to the prophet who came next after Sister White, which is Viti, whatever. They never even checked what he was talking about. They tell you fables. Even to Ben Rodden, they tell you fables. Even to Sister Rodden, they tell you fables. Even to the then Elijah of the time, they will tell you fables. This is coming from the spirit of prophets. That's what they do. Now let's read on. Let's see what happens next.
The ministers present fables, prophesying smooth things to soothe their fears and quiet the awakened conscience.
You see, that awakened conscience now, they try to lull it with fables and smooth things. Let's continue singing. Listen to singing. Oh, you sing and sing. But there is a qualification to enter the pearly gates. It's the 3 seals. It's not singing, it's the 3 seals. Singing and fables, singing and fables. Every Sabbath, this is what they will do. They will call fables and smooth things, and you sing a wonderful choir and wonderful chorus, wonderful, and dodge the 3 seals on the forehead. This is what is happening in the judgment of the living, while the message is being proclaimed by Elijah. Now, let's hear more.
But
But
since many refuse to be satisfied,
we are so happy. There are so many who will refuse
to be satisfied with the mere authority of men and demand,
just demanding that you listen to us. Yeah, you listen to us. We are the voice. We are the voice. No, there are many who don't get satisfied with that. You have to give them a thus said the Lord. You have to dance along with the Bible and the spirit of office, but not the authoritative. We are the church. We are the what? Give the answer. The answer is what is needed. They want. Many are not satisfied with those fables and smooth things and mere authority. They want the answer. They demand it. The spirit of prophet says there's so many of them who won't be satisfied with these fables, with these authoritative answers. They won't be satisfied. They want the answer from the spirit of prophets. As they hear the messages raised by God in the time, in the judgment of the living, proclaiming the judgment of the living. And in that time, they also proclaim that the church now in amazement is Babylon. This is what they hear. And then this stirs them and say they go to their teachers, and which is foolish. You see people who hear the truth and go to their teachers. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? It's like when I plan to divorce my husband, then I look for someone who divorced. What am I trying to do? That person is actually going to encourage me to go ahead with the divorce. Mm-hmm. But if I look for somebody who is satisfied, steady in marriage, that person will counsel me properly. So you are being told the judgment of the living, and you go and ask somebody who never even read about the judgment of the living. That's being foolish. You make yourself lost. You understand? The only answer comes from the Bible and the spirit of office. To the law and to the testimony. That's all. Yeah. So double-eared people won't make it. Because this ear listens to the spirit of prophecy in the judgment of the living, and this other ear listens to fables. Double-eared, you will never make it. You have got to stand like a rock. Yeah, stand like a brave, and demand a thus saith the Lord from the Bible and spirit of prophecy, not any mouth from any man. Now read on this here. Mm-hmm.
But since many refuse to be satisfied with the mere authority of men and demand a plain thus says the Lord,
right?
The popular ministry, like the Pharisees of old, filled with anger as their authority is questioned.
Some people won't be satisfied with these fables. So they continue asking, no, tell us now. Tell us, man, tell us. Then that's when the house of God becomes now a persecuting power, like it was with the Pharisees. That's why it tends, because with the heart now they are angry. You are questioning our authority, like it was with the time of Christ. They were questioning the priests, the Pharisees, because they had the truth from Christ. So this is what will also anger them, because people are hearing the truth, but alas, they are coming to them questioning their authority. And this is what you call, man, the persecuting power. They change now to those who are receiving the seal. And they are the ones who will now start the persecution. We are being told by Sister White, you can read that paragraph on your own, Great Controversy, page 606. Read it. Who is going to persecute you? Don't look at the Gentiles that they will come and persecute the Sabbath keepers. Never. It is those that you go to question their authority, because the Bible has said this in the spirit of prophecy. These are the ones who are going, according to the spirit of prophecy, they are the ones who are going to persecute you. Yeah. I cannot be persecuted by somebody who doesn't know the truth, what I know, because they don't know. They can't persecute me. They will persecute other Gentiles. But it will be Sabbath persecuting Sabbath, according to a thus said the Lord. This is plain in the Spirit of Office. Read for it. But let's continue with the judgment of the living, with the message proclaimed in the 11th hour, whether persecution or not. We're not scared. We're not scared of that. We're not scared because now we are in the border of Jordan to hop in the kingdom. So there's no time for that. God will say, fear not, don't worry. When they send you this and that, don't worry. You will be given what to say by the unction of the Spirit at that time. So we've got no losing battle. We have no losing battle because we know for sure we are preaching a gospel where we are partnership with God. Now let's hear now. I want to see how then do we approach the Revelation 18 verse 1, which has told us that it is a movement. Want to start? It's a movement on its own. If the 9th hour call was a movement, the 11th hour call is a movement. The 9th hour call was a movement of Revelation 14 verse 9, isn't it? And also the 6th hour call was a movement from William Miller. It was a movement. It had a leader and people. So this one also has got Revelation chapter 18 verse 1 is the message of the movement of the 11th hour call. This is what we are, yeah, let's go to Testimonies to Ministers, page 114.
Page 114. When the books of Daniel.
Now, it says when you are approaching this movement, it starts by warning us that these are the people now unlocking the prophecies. When the books of Daniel, listen to that.
And Revelation are better understood.
Right?
Believers will have an entirely different religious experience.
We were told when we were reading Daniel chapter 12 that you shut the book in verse 4. This book will be opened in the time of the end. So the judgment of the living will have people who have this book which was closed opened. When they start reading Daniel and Revelation, then the believers will have a better understanding. Did you hear? Believers will have an entirely different religious experience. So when is the change? When the book is opened, the book of Daniel, not the Revelation. Revelation is opened already because once you know Daniel, it has opened Revelation. That's how God opens Revelation. By your knowledge of Daniel, then you open Revelation. So Revelation is a revealed book. But when this book is understood, Daniel, then the book of Revelation is clear. And the believers will understand in the judgment of the living. They will have a clearer understanding of these two books and also a different religious experience. So read that paragraph, let's hear.
When the books of Daniel and Revelations are better understood, believers will have an entirely different religious experience.
They will have an entirely different from those who are imbibing error in Babylon. These ones who are getting their seal in the time of the 11th hour call, they will have a different religious experience. Right?
They will be given such glimpses of the open gates of heaven.
What God will do will open the gates of heaven and give them a glimpse of what heaven is. Right? Let's hear.
They will be given such glimpses of the open gates of heaven that heart and mind will be impressed with the character that all must develop in order to realize the blessedness which is to be the reward of the pure in heart.
This will change their character. This will change their hearts because God now opens all these blessings, the glimpses of heaven. They will have an entirely different religious experience. Right? That's the workers in the judgment of God. I wanted you to read from 1:13 there above. testimony to ministers, it says we have commandments.
We have the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus
And
Christ.
I told you the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, is a prophet, right?
We have the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ,
Right.
which is the spirit of prophecy.
Right?
Priceless gems are to be found in the Word of God. The mind clear.
So when you search this word, your mind should be kept clear. In subjection with temperance. What God says we should eat is what we should eat. To clear the mind so that we have a clear mind when we are in the judgment of the living. Let's hear more.
Priceless gems are to be found in the Word of God. Those who search this word should keep the mind clear.
Right?
Never should they indulge perverted appetite in eating or drinking.
They should never have perverted appetite. Where? In eating and drinking things that are not advised by God to be eaten. Never should they have them. This they do to keep the mind clear. Right? Listen to that. Next one. If they do
this, the brain will be confused.
the brain will be confused.
They will be
How
unable.
many times do you find somebody who is still having all these plates, the flesh pots, but attempting to teach Daniel and Revelation? You just watch and marvel and say, if at all that person knew, you will confuse things. This is what God is saying. If they do have this perfected appetite in eating and drinking, the brain will be confused. So now we are starting with the diet of those who are in the judgment of the living. Do not confuse your brain by these perverted appetites. So if they do this, the brain will be confused. You see people attempting to preach Daniel and Revelation, but still having this perverted appetite, eating all these things that God is condemning. They are quite confused even in the way they try to tackle Daniel. And end of it, they say it is sealed. They'll just say it is sealed. Revelation is sealed. We'll see. What is sealed? This is not sealed. What is sealed is your brain is beclouded with perverted appetite. And you can't comprehend what is written in Daniel and Revelation, while others will understand it and say it like just a simple novel. But those people, they take these two books as if they are so hard to understand. Why? Because the brain is beclouded by perverted appetite. This is what Sister White is saying. And what? They
will be given such glimpses of the open gates of heaven.
No, if they do this, the brain will be confused. And then the next sentence.
If they do this, the brain will be confused.
Right?
They will be unable to bear the strain of digging deep to find out the meaning of those things which relate to the closing scenes of this earth's history.
That's why they can't understand what happens after the seal. After the sealing process. And they don't even understand what the seal is. Any writing tells us clearly that the seals are three. God, New Jerusalem, and the glorious star containing them. People are talking about the seal. But once they are being sealed, next they think they're just walking in the cloud. Because the brain is beclouded, they will be unable to bear the strain of digging deep to find out the meaning of those things which relate to the closing scenes of this earth's history. How do we find them? With a clear brain. When you are reading, you will understand the prophecies. In the Old Testament, plenty prophecies. In the New Testament, plenty prophecies. You will have this strain of digging deeper. You will have it when your mind is clear. This is what I'm hearing there. Right? So this will happen when the people... Now go to the point 4 there. The Lord will bless all, right?
The Lord will bless all who will seek humbly and meekly to understand that which is revealed in the Revelation.
God, that's why that book of Revelation has a blessing. The Lord will bless all who will seek humbly and meekly to understand that which is revealed in Revelation. The Lord will bless how blessing. These are going to be, admitted in the kingdom. Why? Because these are the books with the gems of the last day events. So here, read the next one.
This book
of Revelation
contains so much
right?
that is large with immortality and full of glory, that all who read and search it earnestly receive the blessing to those that hear the words of this prophecy
Right.
and keep those things which are written therein.
All who read and understand Revelation, it contains a lot which will transform your life so that you're suitable to be in the kingdom. So go to the pulpits now and find what they are studying. Family life, stewardship, whatever. Nothing to touch these two books. Then you wonder, are we preparing for translation? Nothing. All these books are just taboo. People come with these fables and smooth things and people say, powerful, powerful, only to entertain you. But God is telling us exactly what is going to transform us. Where he has put his blessings for the people who are supposed to inherit the kingdom. In the books of Daniel and Revelation, God has revealed those who, so it says, go down, there's somewhere I wanted you to read, I think it's 116, the unconquerable forces. Why? When you read these books, then God is saying there is unconquerable forces waiting. Listen to that.
Those who eat the flesh and drink of the blood of the Son of God
Right?
will bring from the books of Daniel and Revelation
Listen.
truth that is inspired by the Holy Spirit.
So this flesh and the blood of Christ, which is it? Is that not the daily? These people will take the daily. They drink it every day, like it is daily. Daily is day. Third hour, ninth hour. They will bring from the books of Daniel and Revelation truth that is inspired by the Holy Spirit. Now you are telling us, you are nailing everything. You are nailing the statutes. You are nailing even the dailies, not even, and you have perverted appetite. You have all this, and then you stand there. You want to attempt to preach Daniel and Revelation, and people say, you know what? You need the preliminaries for you to be able to do that. You need those preliminaries. God does not just flash his spirit to anybody without these preliminaries. You need them. We have been told by Sister White, keep your brain clear. 2, don't indulge in perverted appetite. 3, when you take the daily, those who drink and eat the flesh of Christ, which is the daily, they will bring from the books of Daniel and Revelation truth that is inspired by the Holy Spirit. It says they will start in, listen to the next sentence, right?
They will start into action.
Right?
Forces that cannot be repressed.
You can't repress the forces because that person is being translated. They will start into action forces that cannot be repressed. Of course, spiritually, they will be enhanced. And what happens?
The lips of children,
even the lips of children,
will be opened.
You see even children preaching, and you marvel and say, where did they get that? They are perusing and perusing, finishing. The hunger in them is to peruse and find out everything, and God assists that. The lips of children will be opened to proclaim the mysteries that have been hidden from the minds of men. You see, all over, these mysteries have been hidden. And they were promised to Daniel that in the time of the end, in the time of the judgment of the living, when they are proclaiming from the unction of the Spirit, not diluted by women. This is what they are virgins, 144,000, they are virgins, not polluted by women. They have God and God alone. No creeds, no nothing. They hear from God and proclaim. That's it. This is judgment for the living in the 11th hour call. You understand? Now, you can understand all this read this chapter alone and understand how nice it is. We are standing, listen to that, we are standing.
We are standing on the threshold of great and solemn events.
Right, that's what
Many
we
of
are.
the prophecies.
We see a lot of things happening. COVID, that's pestilence, isn't it? Pestilence, earthquakes, tornadoes, everything happening. We are standing on the threshold of great and solemn events. Many, listen to that.
Many of the prophecies are about to be fulfilled in quick succession.
While we are talking about the earthquake, there's a tornado. While I'm talking of there's fire, there's flood, yeah, there's mudslide. All this, there's pestilence. And they all come, they don't disappear, they are there, they will be with us until the end. All this, these are solemn events occurring, fulfilling prophecy. And here it says, listen, every element of power.
Every element of power is about to be set to work. Past history will be repeated.
Right.
Old controversies will arouse to new life.
Right.
And peril will beset God's people on every side.
Right.
Intensity is taking hold of the human family. It is permeating everything upon the earth.
Right. Study. Listen to that.
Study Revelation in connection with Daniel.
Study Revelation in connection with Daniel.
For history will be repeated.
Then history, you find history being repeated.
We, with all our religious advantages, ought to know far more today than we do know.
What advantage do we have? We have in the house of God, where God has selected the last minute prophet. That's a privilege. You see, when Sister White was alive, we were a wonderful people. There was a prophet in our midst. And sooner we rejected the next one, and the next one also, those who accepted the next one rejected the next one. And now we are in the last prophet of the hour. We have a privilege. We have a privilege. We have to use our privilege. We are so privileged. But do we accept? When Christ came the first time, in the first advent, the whole Jewish nation had a privilege. What privilege? They had the Son of God among them. That was a privilege. But only a few people who acknowledged Christ got hold of that privilege. Only a few people were blessed by that privilege. Right? So we also have a privilege in our time. We have a really magnificent privilege. But only a few will uphold the privilege. This is always a repetition of history. The history will be, all controversies will come. Which controversy? Go and study the life of Christ and see the desire of ages and see how much controversy there was in his presence. Right? Go and study all prophets and kings, study all the lives of Jeremiah, Elijah, everywhere, and see what controversies were there. And in our time, we have been promised this history will be repeated, and it's being repeated. Now, let's hear, there is 406.
406.
We are to throw.
We are to throw aside.
In your inbox, yeah.
We are to throw aside our narrow, selfish plans.
Right?
Remembering that we have a work of the largest magnitude and highest importance. In doing this work, we are sounding the first, second, and third angels' messages, and are thus being prepared for the coming of that other angel from heaven, who is to lighten the earth with his glory.
We have another angel. We should be prepared. After the first, second, and third, there is a fourth one that God is preparing us for. Now here we are seeing that angel which should lighten the earth with his glory. Coming as a third angel joining with, as a fourth angel joining with the third. This is what we saw. The Sister White saw this angel. And he's preparing the people. Let's go to early writing, page 277. You'll find that she saw this angel. Right?
277. I saw angels hurrying to and fro in heaven, descending to the earth, and again ascending to heaven.
So you see, that's the last prophet that you say you are last prophet. Was seeing angels coming, hurrying to and fro.
Preparing for the fulfillment of some important event.
There was an important event. What important event is it? Judgment of the living. That's the important. The workers of the 11th hour, they only work 1 hour and are paid first. Why? They are the most important to God. Why? They are the ones who enhance all these righteousness from the previous period. They made sure there was a person who now looked like Christ. Perfection. Now let's hear.
Then I saw another mighty angel.
You see this
commission.
mighty angel that we saw when we read, it says we are to be prepared for this other angel. Sister White saw it, this mighty angel coming after her time. After her time, she saw a mighty angel. Listen to that.
Commission
to
descend to the earth.
To descend to the earth.
To unite his voice with the third angel.
Where does the angel go? This mighty angel? To where the third angel was, to unite the voice.
And give power.
And give
and
power.
Force
and
to his
force
message.
To Sister White's message.
Amen.
Did you hear that?
Powerful.
So if you say she was the last, what about this mighty one coming? I told you that judgment for the living has its own prophet. That's the other angel. Because the angel of the third angel's message had a prophet. Now there is another angel, Sister White is seeing, coming to join with the third. Which one is this one? It's the fourth angel's message. Listen to that. What happened when this angel came?
Great power.
Great power.
And glory.
And glory.
Were imparted to the angel.
Right. So Sister White is literally repeating Revelation 18. Because you can see the description of Revelation 18. Revelation 8 clearly says, I saw a mighty angel. A mighty angel. This is also a mighty angel the Sister White is talking about. The same angel. Now let's hear.
Great power and glory were imparted to the angel. And as he descended, the earth was lightened with his glory.
What is it? This angel had a powerful tactic. When the angel uttered, the whole world was lightened with the glory. What happened? There was internet. Did you see that? There was internet. When you just say enter on the internet, the whole world is listening. And the whole world is lightened. I told you, the statues are the ones that lighten. When we are talking about dark ages, we are talking about the man of sin who was changing these statues. That's dark ages. The festivals and the commandments were changed in the dark ages. So this angel came to bring back the statutes, back to lighten, to come off the dark ages. Did you hear that? Now let's hear more.
The light which attended this angel penetrated everywhere.
So it was how did it penetrate? PSM TV penetrates everywhere. Did you hear? Thousands and thousands will listen, and in amazement they will hear that the church is Babylon. We have read that from GC 606. Now Sister White comes again from this chapter early writings and say, great power was in this angel, and the sooner that angel came, joined with where the third angel was, lightened, the great power was there, lightened the whole world. Sister White didn't enlighten the whole world. Didn't. But this angel, the fourth one coming, great power, which is Revelation 18, comes to lighten the whole world. So there is something that God gave this system of the fourth angel or judgment of the living. Now there was technology. There was no technology in the time of Sister White. It was just a glimpse of technology. Now there is. You can speak to anyone on WhatsApp, on a WhatsApp phone, as if, long ago you have to have cards and cards like this just to phone people. But now the cards you have to, I remember we used in about 2000, we used to buy cards, phone cards, like this, and they'll give you about 60 minutes only and you buy them about £5. £5 like this. How many people would you talk to? £5 in 2001, 2000, you remember? Because before that there was this dialing phone. How many people would you preach to? But in our time, we thank God for technology. Amen. WhatsApp, yeah, YouTube, Facebook, all that. So that this angel, when the angel comes, the light will brighten everywhere. Brighten everywhere. Do you understand? Yeah. And
the light which attended this angel,
right,
penetrated everywhere. And as he cried mightily with a strong voice, Babylon the Great is fallen.
You see what
is fallen.
You see what this angel came to introduce that in amazement. Now the church is Babylon. This is what it is. This is a message which comes from an angel. It's not people calling it Babylon. It's an angel coming. The very first thing came to lighten the whole world. And when the whole world is lightened, but listen to the message of this mighty angel coming. That's why I'm telling you that Sister White is seeing Revelation 18. Because that's the way it says, voices will be heard everywhere. Come out of here! Come out of here! Because once you are declared as Babylon, God does not want his people anymore there. God does not want people anywhere. Let's hear more.
The light which attended this angel penetrated everywhere.
Right.
As he cried mightily with a strong voice.
Right.
Babylon the Great is fallen.
Listen to the message of this angel coming to join the third. He comes to introduce you to say, do you know what Babylon is? It's people who don't want to keep the statutes. Do you know what it is? We saw it in Great Controversy, page 606. That this is what those who are trained by the unction of spirit were raised by God to proclaim. And in amazement, what message did they have? The message was to proclaim that church now is Babylon in amazement. Why? Why amazing? Because it's not amazing normally to hear Babylon. Babylon is Babylon always, and they're even proud of being Babylon. But here, those people were professing not to be Babylon. Now they are a pure Babylon. This is a message coming with the angel, like it did with William Miller in Revelation 14, verse 8, 1844. He preached to those churches who rejected his message that you are now Babylon. But this preaching of now is after the threefold messages. And an angel comes to join where the third was and proclaim that you are now Babylon. Now, listen to what the message was. Listen to that.
Babylon the Great is fallen.
Yeah.
Is fallen.
Right.
And has become the habitation of devils.
This is Revelation 18.
And the hold of every foul spirit.
But it's clear now this angel came to join the third. To proclaim that in amazement now, Babylon, pack your clothes, pack your bags. That's Babylon. This is what they did when William Miller preached that is Babylon to those churches which reformed from the very Babylon. He said, now you're Babylon, join them. That's why you go and join Babylon, which was changing times and laws. Go. Now you say the feasts were nailed to the cross. You go and join Babylon. Go join Babylon. Go join. Because that's exactly what they want. This is pleasing to them to hear that the feasts were nailed to the cross. Because they tried to change them over in the Dark Ages. But now they are hearing someone furthermore saying, blot them on the cross, blot them. You go and join. Go and join. And then God now says to his people, come out of it. Come out of it. Come out of it. That one is going to go back with you to Babylon. Come out of here. Listen to that. You're watching. We are in November. Watch in December there. 25 December. You watch and you prove my word. You prove my word. 25 December. You prove it. You prove it. But here, let me tell you one thing. This is the message which was brought by this mighty angel. Babylon is fallen. Babylon is fallen. Listen to that. Now, do you have anything more to say there? We can spend the whole day there. Okay.
The message of the fall of Babylon,
right,
as given by the second angel,
right,
is repeated.
So it is repeated. This Babylon now on Revelation 18 is a repetition of Revelation 14 verse 8, which was done by William Miller. It is repeated. Read that again.
the message of the fall of Babylon, as given by the second angel, is repeated with the additional mention of the corruptions which have been entering the churches since 1844.
Right, since 1844, there is an additional mention of the corruptions which are adding onto the name Babylon. Did you understand? It is repeated. It was proclaimed by William Miller, who was a reformer, who God had raised, to those churches which rejected him when he was proclaiming the coming of Christ. Right? But now it's a repetition which is adding to what William Miller said in 1844. Because the corruptions have been entering from 1844 to the time of the judgment of the living. Did you hear that? Now read one, let's hear.
The work of this angel comes in at the right time.
It comes in exactly on the 11th hour call.
To join in.
To join.
The last great work of the third angel's messages.
To join the third angel.
As it swells into a loud cry.
As it now swells into a loud cry. Everywhere in the Sabbath keeping world will hear now it's Babylon. But right on time, before close of probation for the house of God first. Right? So do not mix things and confuse things with that perverted brain from perverted appetite. You clearly divide the word of truth. We are not judged at the same time with the Gentiles. We are judged. The house of God received the seal first. So they have to have their announcement of Babylon first to those who are rejecting the seal. And then after that, we go, the sealing extends to the Gentiles. So don't mix and match things. I can hear people say, we are waiting for Sunday laws. We are waiting whatever. There's nothing to do with you when you are rejecting the seal. Because you won't even see those Sunday laws. You'll be long done by Ezekiel 9 slaughter. Concentrate on our own tests. Our own tests are these statues that we are nailing to the cross. Now, let's have you exhausted them? Because I know it's non-exhaustible. Let's go to another text. We are just going to give the text that, support the judgment of the living on the 11th hour call. Yeah? Let's go to, I wanted to go to another thing. GC, Great Controversy is terrible. Someone said, I read the Great Controversy, I finished it all. Did you find out about Babylon? Did you find out that in amazement that the church is Babylon? Did you find out that, God will illuminate it so that we all understand what that's why it is called the Great Controversy. Now, let's go to GC again, Great Controversy. 604.
604. But God still has a people in Babylon.
Did you hear? But when it says Babylon is fallen, but God still has a people. There are people in Babylon. Now you know who Babylon is. There are people in Babylon. Listen to that.
And before the visitation of his judgments.
Which is the judgment? Ezekiel 9. Before Ezekiel 9.
These faithful ones.
The faithful
must
ones
be called out.
Should be out.
That they partake not of her sins and receive not of her plagues.
They should not partake of her sins and the judgment for Babylon. God has to call them out. Right? And
hence, the movement.
So, you see Revelation 18 is a movement. Revelation 18 is a movement. Hence the movement. Right? Which movement?
Hence the movement, symbolized by the angel coming down from heaven,
right?
Lightening the earth with his glory.
Right?
In connection with his message,
right?
The call is heard. Come out of here, my people.
Come out of that's the Revelation 18, the message just says, come out of here. No negotiation. Come out of here. Whether you are blind or what, like it was with Lot and his wife. They were just told out. 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 Even the wife did not believe that we can leave this magnificent city of Sodom. Even the the son-in-laws who were, well developed. Can we leave? That wife of Lot was told, out, come out. Because God knew there was an impending judgment coming. So when you are told, come out, you should be out. But there are people already, when you say come out, even when a bus is about to burst, there is an engine which is soldering fumes, and the driver said, let's come out. There's someone who continues to sit. There's someone who continues to sit in the bus until it starts to pow. Then you hear that those who were still in the bus perished. But there's a call from heaven. When God calls, sends an angel to make that call. Listen to the call. Listen. There are people generally who don't want change. Someone says, coming out and going away. Get ready. Judgment for the living is in process. God will nourish you with the food you are looking for. The food we are looking for, with the message you are looking for, will nourish you and get you ready for inheriting the kingdom. Come out. Here we are being told that the call from this mighty angel was to come out. That's why people say, no, it's for these other churches out. You expect other churches to come out, but you don't want to come out. But here, let me tell you one thing. You have to rightly divide what is concerning the church and what is not concerning the church. You have to read everywhere and find out, is it me to come out? Ask God, He will show you further. You have to come out. That's why He says, if it were possible, the very elect were going to be deceived. So you see a few people who are out, who are responding to the call, and you think the bulk is the one that is going to be saved. It has never been like that. It has never. Go to the time of Noah. It was 8. They were out. 8 listened to Noah. 8 they were in the boat. What happened to the bulk? They were sunk in the waters. They sank. Our God can come out with one person, one. That is it, and create the whole next world with one person. See, He's not starving for people. When He makes a message, He makes it clear. When they were told by Noah, you have to build an ark and go in the ark, was the message. Go inside the ark. They laughed. They did laugh. But that was a message from heaven. But next thing after the warning, they were all sunk inside the ark. Ezekiel chapter 9 is here for sure coming. It's coming out. And God has a warning first before the impending judgment. This is what we are reading. But let's hear more.
In connection with His message, the call is heard. Come out of her, my people.
Like, my question is, this is Revelation 18. A mighty angel which Sister White saw. Do you understand? So, if you are quoting what Sister White wrote, that the church will never be Babylon, was she the one to proclaim that it's now Babylon? Who was to proclaim? The 11th hour call was to proclaim. Mighty angel was coming to proclaim that now it's Babylon. God is not a respecter of people. He has got 5 angels already. Who, in William Miller's time, those who rejected Sister White did not continue with Sister White. But they were left. And also with Sister White, those who don't continue with Sister White will be left. Because next prophet comes. We behave like those people who were with John the Baptist. He had those who were following John the Baptist. When Christ came, Christ had his followers. And those who were following John the Baptist were so stuck. For them to leave John the Baptist and go to Christ, some of them were stuck. They continued. And some didn't even understand the motive which was in Christ. Because when John the Baptist was arrested, They called Christ to come and rescue John the Baptist. Christ didn't go. Until John the Baptist was beheaded, they did not understand his conduct. It's always a problem at the enveloping of another message. From another message. It's always a problem. But those who continue with the next one, which God raises, will benefit a lot. Will benefit a lot. So the call was heard, come out. Now read on, let's hear.
In connection with this message, the call is heard. Come out of here, my people. These announcements, uniting with the third angel's message, constitute the final warning.
That is the final warning. So, Sister White did not preach the final warning. Her warning was, if any man worship the beast in verse 9 of Revelation 14. But there is a final warning where there is a messenger who preaches the final warning of the 11th hour call. Preaches to those who are in the 9th hour call. Come out. Come out and join the 11th hour messengers. Who, because you are used to those who are trained from institutes. Now you see people who are not even trained, but God has raised them. God did not even demand the A levels and the O levels or the genders that we are talking about. He did not demand them. He only demanded the unction of the Spirit. Now, because of that, so many people will doubt. That's how many people will be rejected. Did you understand? But the messages from the spiritual prophets tell you exactly that there is a last hour call, which is Revelation chapter 18. But let's move on with this Revelation chapter 18. You'll find that. Let's go to another text, Testimonies to Ministers, page 59. One is Sister White is elaborating more about the second angel's message to Revelation 14 verse 8. Let's hear Revelation 14 verse 8. I mean in the second angel's message there. It's there on the Testimonies to Ministers, page 59, where the sentence starts with the second angel's message was to go to Babylon. Okay, I'll read it. The second angel's message was to go to Babylon. Those are the churches that rejected Sister William Miller. Proclaiming her downfall and calling the people to come out of Babylon. This is Testimonies to Ministers, page 59. This same message is to be proclaimed the second time. That's what Sister White says. Have you found it? Okay, listen.
Sorry. This same message is to be proclaimed the second time.
Right.
And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory.
Right. So what points did we get from that quotation? It says Revelation 14 verse 8, which is the second angel's message, is to be proclaimed the second time. Did you get that point? The same message is to be proclaimed the second time. It is to be repeated by the angel of Revelation 18 verse 1. So you see, Revelation 14 verse 8 was preached by William Miller to those churches which rejected him. And it's going to be repeated by Revelation 18 where to a church which was upright, which now falls. Do you understand? Right. Let's go to another one, another quote again, which will the Testimonies to Ministers, page 300, there below there.
Page 300. When the work goes forward,
right,
under the direction of the angel,
so
who joins the third.
The angel of Revelation 18 is a movement. Yeah, if it's a movement, there is a leader, isn't it? Now, when the work goes forward under the direction of the angel who joins the third, that's Testimonies to Ministers. Let's hear what happens now in the judgment of the living. When this work now on the 11th hour call occurs, what happened? Let's see.
When the work goes forward under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel in the message to be given to the world,
right?
The workers
will
be surprised.
Now, we have these workers that we said there is new ministry on the Revelation chapter 18. which has now the unction, which has been qualified by the unction of the Spirit. When the work goes forward under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel in the message, we have been told there's a fourth angel joining the third. When the work occurs in that instance, in this angel who joins the third, which is the fourth angel's message, right? The work, are you in this instant?
Yeah.
The workers will be surprised.
Will be surprised.
Listen to that.
The workers will be surprised by the simple means that he will use to bring about and perfect his work.
What is called simple means. Yeah. When you Google and you further elaborate on what simple means is, we were used to men preaching to us, saying no women ordination in the Revelation chapter 14 verse 9. No women ordination. No women ordination. But what is the simple means? It says in another quote, Sister White, says the simple means are it will be preached by simple people. The simple people who are they, who even women. That's the simple means. The women. This message of Revelation 11, even women will be there as ministers. Leaders can be women. You see people, oh, can a woman, it's because they have not met the movement which is led in Revelation chapter, in Matthew 5th hour call, which is the 11th hour call. It will have women. Yeah. And those who are in the judgment of the living, those who are in the judgment of the dead, who was leading them?
Sister White.
Sister White. She was the one preaching the judgment of the dead. And we will hear again women also leading in the judgment of the living. These are the simple means. Because you can't call men simple means, they're strong means, isn't it? Natural, they're strong means. But here we are told even the workers will be surprised by simple means. And simple means even women. Women are the simple means. This is the judgment of the living. Why would both judgments demand to be led by women? Why? Why, when God is serious in the judgment of the dead, send a woman? Why would he trust a woman for that investigative judgment of the living and the dead? Why does he trust me? There is a lot there involved. We are not being chauvinistic. We are being what God prefers. Because this job needs a lot of humility. We were told already, even the Elijah of the time, of the day now, the Elijah is the one who was given the most abusive words. Yeah, you're too earnest. You don't interpret it. You know, look, most people look down on women. You understand? But God will use the simplest means that you look down on. Now, read on now. We understand what simple means is. Let's read that one. When the end, you started, when the work
goes forward, under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel, in the message to be given to the world, the workers will be surprised by the simple means that he will use to bring about and perfect his work.
What surprises? Because they were sitting and stamping and saying, no women ordination. They find the women there. This is what the bulk will reject the message of judgment of living because it's led by a woman. And the workers will also be surprised. This is what we are told. Because of the simple means, the workers will also be surprised. Read on this here. Have you finished it? Right. Let's go to another one. We want to understand that in detail. COL 79.3.
COL 79.3. And the earth shall be lightened with his glory.
Yeah, the earth will be lightened. That angel will enlighten the earth. Sister White confirms it will be enlightened with his glory in COL 0.3. But go to the book itself. Let's hear more.
And in the last generation, the parable of the mustard seed is to reach a signal and triumphant fulfillment.
Now, even the parable of the mustard seed will reach its signal. But I told you about this mustard seed. That this mustard seed is just a tiny seed. You see it on the finger. And next thing you cannot see it. But when it is planted, that seed is planted, it grows and becomes bigger than all trees around. Now we are looking for this mustard seed. It only shows that the message starts with small, simple means, small groups that anyone cannot even listen and say, what are they trying? That's the mustard seed. But when it grows, it will be the biggest tree on all trees. So it says, this message starts with a tiny, group of people. And then when we are told that the message, repeat that sentence that you read.
And in this last generation,
in the last generation,
the parable of the mustard seed,
the parable of this mustard
is to
seed
reach a signal and triumphant fulfillment.
It will be in its fulfillment. What fulfillment? So it will grow now
In this generation.
In this last generation. Do you understand?
The little seed will
will
become a tree.
The
last message of warning and mercy is to go to every nation and kindred and tongue.
What is this seed which becomes a tree? I told you that a tree is a leader. So what is this mustard seed? It's a leader. It becomes a leader. Why? When the message goes throughout the whole world, then the seed becomes a leader. You understand? It becomes a leader. Now, there is another chapter I wanted. Have you got anything more on that? There's another verse in the Bible, which is, go to Isaiah 55. Isaiah 55. I like that one in Isaiah 55. Start way at about verse 4 or so.
Verse 4. Behold, I've given him for a witness.
Right, start verse 1.
Okay, verse 1. Ho, everyone that thirsteth.
Oh, everyone that thirsteth.
Come ye to the waters.
Right?
And he that hath no money, come ye, buy it.
So the gospel will be given freely without water.
Yeah. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price.
Right?
Wherefore do ye spend money for that which is not bread?
Right?
And your labor for that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness. Verse 4.
Right?
Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people,
Right?
a leader
Right.
and commander to the people.
Right. So the mustard seed becomes now a leader and a commander to the people. Now, because they are now going to have that leader in the kingdom when it is established. We have been studying all that. When the kingdom is established, we saw it was going to be David in charge. So that leader now, as David, is going to be a commander in chief. Did you hear? Repeat that verse.
Behold, I've given him for a witness
It's a witness
to the people,
to the people.
a leader and commander to the people.
God has raised a leader and commander to the people.
Behold,
Behold,
thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not.
when you proclaim the message, it will call a nation that you have never went there.
And nations that knew not thee
Yeah?
shall run unto thee because of the Lord thy God,
Right.
and for the Holy One of Israel, for he hath glorified thee.
Right. So this is what the mustard seed will be like. Nations who have not even known thee will run unto thee. You know what? This quotation, it blesses my heart. When I see what starts as a small thing, it goes, in our last generation, it fulfills the stature of the mustard seed. And now God is saying, I've raised for a witness, a commander-in-chief. And that person God will glorify. So glorify the message together with the leader. And this is what we are in the judgment of the living. In the 11th hour call. We haven't even started 11th hour call. We are still introducing it, isn't it? Huh? Is it? Yeah. So when we meet next week, we continue with the 11th hour call, because that's the judgment of the living, is part of the judgment of the living, together with the when it is in the judgment of the living in Revelation in 11th hour call. When it is in the 11th hour call, the judgment of the living is being described, who is going to be working, and we have seen it's got a leader, it's a movement, it's Revelation 18, a mighty angel coming in to join the third, and also calling for Babylon and come out of here, my people, and becomes a giant in the last days, in the last generation. A giant, the mustard seed becomes a giant. And God says, I've called it and I've glorified it. And, we are going to continue with the judgment of the living. It's very exciting. It's got a lot of information that you cannot comprehend. May God bless you.
Amen.